so we're going to share the time. We're good at sharing, right? And so our first speaker, please welcome Tara.
My name's Tara. I'm an addict. Not big on microphones. Makes me very nervous. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Too loud? Barely?
Yeah.
Oh. This is really nice. I love Ottawa a lot. It's nice to be here. I've been living in Montreal for the last 2 years, but Ottawa is my home. It's where I built my NA family, and it's really nice to be speaking at this convention. One thing I wanted to say, if you look at your pamphlet, there's a letter missing at the end. So finding our place in recovery, LGBTQ. So grab yourself a pen and add that letter to the end there, because that's where I fit in. I had mixed feelings about speaking at this meeting for my anonymity. I found I've always had mixed feelings about meetings that are kind of categorized based on gender or identity, and I wanted to decline because of that, but at the same time I am proud to identify as queer, and it is an honor to be asked to speak, so I chose to speak anyways. But I'm probably not going to be talking a whole lot about my identity as a queer person, and I apologize to people who came here hoping for that. It's not a big part of my recovery. I'm proud to be queer, and I'm just stubborn as fuck, so it's never really gotten in my way. I just am queer, and I'm comfortable with that. But that hasn't always been my story. The word that I chose to focus on today was dysfunction, because that's a big part of my story, both before getting clean and since. I am a very dysfunctional person, and I think I always will be on some level. And what I did is I broke down the word dysfunction, and I chose ways to live within dysfunction and ways to grow out of it. And that's how I have found my place in recovery, is to challenge my dysfunction through the program of Narcotics Anonymous. So the first word that I chose was dignity, which can sometimes be associated with morality, but that's not so much the dignity that I want to focus on. It's more finding self-worth. When I first came to NA, I focused a lot on sex, attention seeking, buying the nicest things, being the center of attention, and a lot of my using was focused on that as well. I found the hotter I was, the more free drugs I got, and a whole lot of my attention seeking kind of gave me this rush. It gave me this feeling of being powerful, and that stemmed from a lot of insecurity, and it's something that I still struggle with today, and I think I always will on some level. But through coming to Narcotics Anonymous, I have found a way to feel good about myself and to feel like I deserve respect, and it's taken me a lot of years to figure out how that works. So I guess I'll just keep going. I don't have anything else to say about that right now. So the second letter is Y, I think, in dysfunction, I hope, because I chose the word yearning. And I remember when I was using, the day that I decided to get clean, I was 80 pounds and I had nothing. I tell this story a lot when I give out the white key tag, that I had like over 200 contacts in my cell phone and not a single person I could call the day that I decided to get clean. And that feeling of being so alone and so empty, but that small spark of hope that I felt. I didn't really know about NA, and I didn't really know about recovery at that time, but there was this small spark of hope in me that it never extinguished. It was always there. And that day that I decided to call a treatment center, it was just like this hunger for change, and I made a decision, and I've been clean almost 12 years. So it's it's kind of like day by day I kind of try and focus on that yearning to get better, and it's not always easy, and I don't always put in the work, but I think I've watched a lot of people relapse over and over and over again, but they just keep on showing up at meetings and they keep on coming back. And I remember there's this one guy in Ottawa who relapsed all the time. Like, he just relapsed all the time, but he kept coming to meetings. And then I remember his 1-year celebration. I was like, holy fuck, like, it works, and that feeling of walking through the door and just showing up anyways is so powerful. And so that's what yearning means to me. Spirit, so the spiritual principles in the basic text and in the 12-step working guide, like, that is where the miracles happen, and there are ways to kind of fight all the behaviors that we come into these rooms with, and like lying or cheating or stealing or feeling like shit about ourselves, or attention seeking or whatever. There's a spiritual principle that, because I don't know how to live, and I still don't know how to live sometimes, and I have to keep coming to meetings, and I have to keep identifying with you guys and finding tools, and it's you guys that teach me, and it's the literature that teaches me which tools to use in order to function in society. And so there's honesty and spirituality and being non-judgmental and having hope and faith and putting in the effort, and all these things, like, they sound kind of boring and like a lot of work sometimes, but there's a flip side to all of our behaviors. And I've come to see that a lot of my bad behaviors, like control, for example, is a huge behavior of mine. There's parts of it that are good. There's parts of it that, hustling, for example, I can sell you any car. And, there's parts of us that are not that bad if we just tone it down a bit. And that's what my journey through the steps has involved, and that's what coming to meetings teaches me how to do, is just tone all of my dysfunction down. Fun. I really didn't know how to have fun when I got clean. For me, it involved staying up till 5 a.m, spending all my money, going home the next day, stinking like really bad, and wearing the same clothes, and drinking things with cigarette butts in them, and like crawling on the carpet looking for leftovers. And I was friends with people because they had something for me. And in early recovery, it took me a lot of work to start having friends because I loved them, and accepting friends because they loved me, and learning how to share and trust and go out and have good, clean fun. And that's a great thing about the Ottawa area, is there are so many events here, and at first I was like, how much fucking pool can I play in my life? Like, and the dances, they feel a bit like high school, and it's like I had 2 water bottles, and I was like, I can do this, I can figure this out. And as time went on, I kind of forgot about what fun used to mean, and I redefined that. And I redefined it with this community and this culture that we build here in Narcotics Anonymous. So it is possible to have fun in NA, and like, out of all my friends who are not addicts, I'd like to announce that I am the most fun person out of all of them. So I'm really proud of having fun clean, and I'm really proud of being creative about how to have fun, and it's definitely possible. Next one is understanding. So for me, it's not so much understanding others, it's more about understanding myself. I'm really quick to look at others and to identify what's wrong with them and to blame people and be a victim and stuff. And for me, the step guide is the way to understanding. It's the way to understanding my behaviors and where they come from. And I'm one of those people who I didn't get better quickly. I'm a late bloomer, let's say, in recovery. It's taken me a long time to identify where my behaviors come from and how to stop treating people like shit, and how to stop treating myself like shit. But the key was that I just kept showing up, and I just kept picking up the step working guide, and I'm just starting my 4th step again, and I feel like this time around, at 11 years clean, I'm finally starting to understand myself and not be scared of the things that I need to change anymore, to kind of put that shame aside and really look in the mirror at who I am and who I want to be, and stop running from that and blaming everyone else. And that's been a huge part of my story. So, you know, it's funny, like in meetings, you don't hear people talk about the steps that much. And this is a 12-step fucking program. And like, so part of how I have remedied that like extreme fear of getting better is forming a step group with some people in Montreal, and every 2 weeks we get together, and whether I like it or not, they ring my doorbell and they show up, and I have no choice but to do step work. And I know myself, if I didn't have that structure, I wouldn't do it. So that's kind of why I've made that happen. Novelty is the next one, and that's for people with clean time. As someone with clean time, I find it's hard to stay clean. It's hard to remember where I came from. It's hard to not feel better. It's hard to, you know, I crave that rush. I crave that high. I crave it. And I still want to live in that dysfunction. And I think just to remind people that meetings is where it's at, you know? It's where it's at for newcomers, and it's where it's at for people with clean time, because like I forget. If I don't go to a meeting for a few weeks, I'm like out to lunch. Like my girlfriend's like, you need to go to a meeting. So, you know, that rush for attention, to spend all my money, to drive fast, and to just destroy something. I still have that feeling sometimes. So I keep showing up. Community, well, this room is a great example at how Narcotics Anonymous works. If you have never been to a convention before, like, this is where it's at. Like, I need to come to conventions to remember how powerful we are as a group, and that I am not an island, and that we are a world of people all coming together to share and grow and whatever. So you're definitely not alone. Try on the white key tag says just for today, and the last 3 letters is try. And if you're new to NA, like I shared about my friend who just kept relapsing and kept coming back, he just kept trying, you know, and you're never too fucked up to show up here. I've made a lot of mistakes over the time that I've been clean, and I just kept coming back. And there's a place for everyone here. There's this woman who was part of the Narcotics Anonymous Fellowship on the French side here, and this story is very inspiring to me because she started to feel ostracized by her group of friends. And so she started to come to English meetings because she didn't feel safe on the French side anymore. And she didn't feel comfortable here because it wasn't her home, and so she stopped going to meetings altogether. And she blew her brains out, and her child died of starvation. And that story is so powerful to me because in her head somewhere she didn't feel like she could come here, and she didn't feel like she belonged here. And that story hit me so deeply because we all belong here, and we need to own our chair. And no matter how much clean time you have or how new you are, like, we are all equally here just for today, and nobody is better or worse than you. So intuition, learning to trust yourself. In early recovery, they say whatever you feel, do the opposite. So if you don't feel like going to a meeting, go to a meeting. I believe in your heart of hearts, you know you should be going to a meeting. So, I think it goes back to the dignity and learning to trust yourself and learning to rely on that intuition. If something's not good for you, you know it. And if something's good for you, you know it. So it's just about taking that step to get better, to make a different choice today. And the more you make different choices, the more you change. Ownership, so responsibility to get better. I heard this saying in early recovery, you're responsible for everything that happens to you. At first I was like, so you mean I'm responsible if someone kicks the shit out of me? Well, no, but I'm responsible for hanging out with people who would kick the shit out of me. Like what led me to hang out with someone like that? And where do those feelings come from? And, what part do I play in the situations that I find myself in? And, it goes back to the steps and finding a way to grow out of that behavior and really honoring yourself. And the last one is N for Narcotics Anonymous. And I'm so proud to be a member. I have never been a member of a sister fellowship. I have worked the NA 12 steps since I've been clean, and I sponsor NA members and I go to NA meetings, and for me, Narcotics Anonymous is where it's at. It's young and old and fun and rowdy and creative, and the literature speaks to all of my behaviors. If I break the step work down, I can work on relationship problems, I can work on family problems, I can work on identity problems, I can find everything I need here, and it's the only place in my life that I have ever felt at home. And Narcotics Anonymous is my home. Moving to another city, I moved to Montreal 2 years ago, and that was earth-shattering for me. I can't explain, to leave my community and start fresh, but I showed up and my family was already there. And no matter where I go in the world, I have a home. And part of why I used is because I just feel so alone inside. And this is the one place I can come and be whoever I am. And there's at least one person who's gonna love me. So that's about it. I'm hoping it wasn't too choppy with my little idea to break it up into a word, but for me, that defines how I live within my dysfunction. And I'm really proud to be dysfunctional today because I find it makes me beautiful in my own way, and it gives me a lot to offer other people. I guess to anyone who's new, just keep coming back.
Thank you, Tara. She'll be around afterwards if you want to chat with her. And our next speaker is Sean A.
I'm an addict. My name's Sean. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah, okay, good. Just like Tara, I'm a bit nervous. These microphones are a little overwhelming. It was a little bit last minute being asked to join in this speaking. So as I said, I'm a little bit nervous, so bear with me. They talk about this finding your place. I just did a reading recently that said one of our goals in doing recovery and doing the steps is we find our place as individuals. We find our place not only in these rooms, but outside in the world. And where that place is going to be, we don't know. And if we allow it to unfold, we'll find out it will go to places we never thought possible. And that's where I am in my recovery. Next, at the end of August, I'll be leaving Ottawa. And Ottawa has been my place of recovery for my entire clean time, which is coming up 9 years. And it's a new process and a new beginning, and I'm moving to another city and a new life, and I'm nervous. They talk about, for me, one thing that kept me out, and they talk about that, is shame. Shame and fear. They don't talk a lot about it in the steps, but in the step book, but it is shame that keeps us out there. And you know, for me being a gay man, I had a lot of shame. You know, and I had very little acceptance of who I was as an individual. You know, my life was in dark rooms, you know, was using, having sex, and not having relationships, and feeling shame through all that process. You know, I bring that up because, you know, it was how my using was anyway. My using was identical. You know, coming into this program, I thought I'd just start this program by just coming in and stop using. That's it. If I could just stop using, I'll be okay. That's all I need to do. And that's all that's wrong, is I'm using. But, you know, working the steps and having some clean time, you know, I have a very different perspective. You know, that wasn't what was only wrong. You know, working the steps, and Tara mentioned this, working the steps is so crucial in recovery. It's vital, you know. And I hate the word work, because you know when you say work, everyone gets they freak out. It's going to be work, you know. But the reality is we're worth it. And that's what we should be saying. We are worth this. We are worth the right to find out who we are, to find out what our strengths are. You know, yes, we have defects, but you know, as we continue to practice our assets, they become more important, you know, and our defects drift off to the side, you know. So I want to say you're worth it, not work, you know. And I've gotten to know who I am and who I want to be, you know. Something happened in my life this year that would have been my ticket out the door if it was a movie or a television show for the ultimate relapse. But I didn't. I didn't because of this program. Not because I stand there strong, not because I stood on my own and had my own will, because my will got me here, but because of this program, the steps, this fellowship, and the people's in these rooms. And I thank them. I thank them every day. And I'm blessed that I go to these meetings and that I'm part of a group, you know. It's unity that brings us together. Unity. We're all different people, you know. But the one thing is, we struggle with one thing, you know. And that brings us together in a world that doesn't bring everybody together. You know, a world that just doesn't do it. But we're here. You know, I look around this room and there's people I love in this room. And there's people I don't know well, but I love you because you're in this room. And we have one purpose. You know, I'm very nervous, but I look out and I see my sponsor out there. And he shared at a meeting this week that's what kept him being calm. He saw his sponsor when he spoke last at a convention, and that's why I keep looking at him. You know, when I came in, I didn't want to be friends with people in the LGBTQ community because I didn't like you. Sorry, but it was because really and truthfully, I didn't like myself. And by looking at you, I had to look at myself, and boy, oh boy, I didn't want to look at myself. I had a lot of hate. I didn't want to make relationships. My sponsor said, you didn't make deep relationships. I didn't want to make relationships because you're going to get to know me. And I'm not going to be that vulnerable. You know, I'm afraid. I didn't know how to have a healthy relationship with a gay man because it was one of two things. It was either you want to sleep with me or I want to sleep with you. That was a reality in my life. Today, I have relationships in the LGBTQ community that are healthy, that are loving. There's no agenda. And I get to grow as a gay man. You know, I get to reach out without an agenda. And that's important to me, because that's what my life was. It was an agenda. What will you give me, and when will I get it? And that's it, and then get lost. Someone said to me, when's the last time you had a relationship? I said, 15 years ago. Then they said to me, well, have you been with someone? I said, oh, please. I'm not dead. But why didn't I have a relationship? Because I don't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to. And I'm getting to learn today who Sean is. What do I like? I'm leaving a job today that I thought would be my life. And people look at me and go, oh, really? And I'm going back to school to do something I've always wanted to do. I'm going to sports media. So maybe this will be normal, okay? But you know what? That's because of this program, not because everyone says the gifts. The gifts are from within, because I can look at myself today. Not what I'm going to get. The outside gifts will come because I look at me. And what do? I come back. I step in. I read a line that said you can be a spiritual tourist or a spiritual explorer. I don't want to be a tourist. I've been a tourist all my life, standing there on the sidelines. I want to be in the action. I want to do it. And when I don't do it, I don't feel good. Just show up to a meeting to show up, not listening, that's not good. It's not a checkbox, my recovery. It's not cookie cutter, my recovery. I'm proud of this program. I'm proud to be an addict. I am. Because it's forced me to look at who I am. And when a lot of people in life, they don't get that opportunity. I have to. And the other thing is, I'm proud to be a gay man. It's who I am. It's the idea of acceptance. Accept who you are. And that's who I am today. Life is good, even when life isn't. Life will give you whatever life will give you. And another thing I read recently was the idea is when you go looking for solutions, what you're really saying is you're looking for control. Because the solution will mean you have control. Sometimes there is no answer. Sometimes it will unfold. But what I need to do today is I need to live by my spiritual principles when the things are thrown at me. And my behaviors when I was out using and doing what I was doing, especially in the community, and how I treated people, as a gay man, they don't work today. They don't. Because they don't fall in line with the spiritual principles I live by my life every day. I'm going to miss Ottawa when I go. I'm going to miss the city and I'm going to miss the people. But what recovery has taught me is that I am not alone no matter where I go. I can choose to be alone. I can choose to sit and isolate. I have that choice every day. I could have chose to say no to text speaking, but I didn't. So when I go, I'm going to do what this program teaches me. I'm going to be that newcomer again. That person who goes to meetings and introduces himself and says, I'm new. And clean time don't matter, because when I show up there, I am new. And I look forward to that. Recovery is a blessing. And I'm thankful today that I have a sponsor who is gay, because I look up to him. I admire him. He has characteristics that I want in my life and for myself. And that is to be a turning point in my recovery, because it's brought self-respect. I have respect for myself today. I can say that. We couldn't before. You know, somewhere along the line in the last year and a half, when I mentioned to you, I had that card, that ticket on a television show or a movie that would have said, you can relapse now, make it good, you know. You know, I did reading, sometimes something bad will happen and it will be wrapped in something amazing. You just have to let it unfold. And it was amazing because I have a better understanding of this program and what this program offers. You know, they didn't have before. You know, it's not just about the theory. Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that makes sense. It made sense here, it made no sense there. Okay, all those phrases, yeah, they make sense in the brain. But they never connected to the heart. And ever since that happened, my recovery has went right to my heart. And I'll tell you, wow. So I say to newcomers, when will that happen? When will that light go off? When will those spiritual awakenings happen? There is no timeline. There is no, it's going to happen on the 6th month, 3rd day after you've done this question, bang. It's not going to be like that. That's control. You know, what's it going to happen? It'll happen when it happens. But I'll tell you right now, if I use, it'll never happen. That I know. That I can tell you. That I can promise. I have no doubt in my mind. But if I stick around, it'll happen. If I stick around and love myself enough to do the steps, love myself enough to accept who I am, love myself enough to open up to someone in this program, love myself enough to reach out to a higher power, and whatever it is, it's my definition. You know, and people ask me what it is, explain it. I said, no, if I explain it, I'll analyze it and I'll screw it up. So you're not getting an explanation because I will screw it up. You know? But if I do that, things happen. That's all I can say. They will. I believe that for everyone here and everyone in this convention. We will find our place, whether it be in recovery, outside of recovery, in this universe. We will. You know, I think about today. I'm an opportunity to be a sponsor, and I was a sponsor before, but it was always about ego. It was about, oh yeah, if I could be a sponsor and I have this person as my sponsee, and I really never got it. And when they would relapse, I would take blame and I would say, oh my God, it's my fault. Because I'm self-centered. It was about me. It had nothing to do about me. I used to think in my head, I don't know how to be a sponsor. What's the rules? How am I going to set it up? And I remember a friend of mine shared the other night about the cookie cutter method, right? There's no really cookie cutter method of what you need to do as a sponsor and so forth. It is. What is the definition? Well, sponsor is someone who shares their recovery. We build a relationship, we share the recovery, they share their experience, strength, and hope. And that's that. Oh, I can do that. I can share my experience. And I remember my sponsee is not gay. And we were talking one day, and he said, just to check, you are gay, right? And I went, yes. And he was like, okay, that's fine. It was really not an issue. He just wanted to, make sure things were cool. I said, yep, it's cool. We all have similar feelings. Similar struggles. Some things might be different, but they, but that relationship for me has been so amazing because I get to share my experience, I get to share my strength, I get to share my hope, and I get to listen to him. And he gets to remind me every day the enthusiasm sometimes I lose with recovery and that energy that I lose with recovery. And he was so pumped at the end of the speaker last night. And I just love that. I love that because it brings that back for me. It brings that back. And it reminds me that relationship that we all are one. We're unified. And sometimes, I get my best lessons from people new. I get my best lessons. It doesn't matter how much clean time you have, and it doesn't matter how much recovery. It's something anyone can say could change your day if I'm open-minded and willing to let it happen. So I'm going to leave with that. I'm going to leave. I'm thankful for my life. I'm thankful for my recovery. I'm thankful to be a member of Narcotics Anonymous. And thank you for being here.
Now, one of the things that Sean did not say is where he's moving to. Is anybody here from Toronto? Well, I think Sean needs phone numbers because he's moving in September. And so, and he's got his phone with him, so he can easily record them, all right? So, and you can thank me later. Now, just before we close, I just have one announcement. It's not convention related, but there is an LGBT convention that's held every year in Fort Lauderdale. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called the Rainbow Weekend. It's been going on for I don't know how many 20. No, last year was 17, so this year is going to be 18, and it's at the end of November, it's a wonderful experience. I've been going to it now for maybe 6 years. So if you want to look it up, it's the website address is rainbowweekend.org. So all one word, rainbowweekend.org. And if you forget what it is, just search like Fort Lauderdale Gay Convention and it pops up right away. They're also looking for speaker submissions. So, and the deadline is coming up really quickly, and so just go to the website. There is a link to register for the newsletter. The website hasn't been updated for this year's convention yet, but you can always email the people and ask them, where to submit your speaker tape or recording. But if you want to go, it's really great, and the hotel is really cheap, and it's always beautiful that time of year. So it's fun. So that's it about Rainbow Weekend. And we are about to close, and I've asked Rebecca to close with just for today. We'll do the serenity prayer.
Rebecca Addicts. Just for today, tell yourself. Just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery, living and enjoying life without the use of drugs. Just for today, I will have faith in someone in NA who believes in me and wants to help me in my recovery. Just for today, I will have a program. I will try to follow it to the best of my ability. Just for today, through NA, I will try to get a better perspective on my life. Love yourself. Just for today, I will be unafraid. My thoughts will be on my new associations. People who are not using and have found a new way of life. So long as I follow that way, I have nothing to fear.
And please join us in a circle so that we can close with the Weave version of Serenity Prayer. Give me a hug, brother. so we're going to share the time. We're good at sharing, right? And so our first speaker, please welcome Tara.
My name's Tara. I'm an addict. Not big on microphones. Makes me very nervous. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Too loud? Barely?
Yeah.
Oh. This is really nice. I love Ottawa a lot. It's nice to be here. I've been living in Montreal for the last 2 years, but Ottawa is my home. It's where I built my NA family, and it's really nice to be speaking at this convention. One thing I wanted to say, if you look at your pamphlet, there's a letter missing at the end. So, finding our place in recovery, LGBTQ. So grab yourself a pen and add that letter to the end there, because that's where I fit in. I had mixed feelings about speaking at this meeting for my anonymity. I've always had mixed feelings about meetings that are kind of categorized based on gender or identity, and I wanted to decline because of that, but at the same time I am proud to identify as queer, and it is an honor to be asked to speak, so I chose to speak anyways. But I'm probably not going to be talking a whole lot about my identity as a queer person, and I apologize to people who came here hoping for that. It's not a big part of my recovery. I'm proud to be queer, and I'm just stubborn as fuck, so it's never really gotten in my way. I just am queer, and I'm comfortable with that. But that hasn't always been my story. The word that I chose to focus on today was dysfunction, because that's a big part of my story, both before getting clean and since. I am a very dysfunctional person, and I think I always will be on some level. And what I did is I broke down the word dysfunction, and I chose ways to live within dysfunction and ways to grow out of it. And that's how I have found my place in recovery, is to challenge my dysfunction through the program of Narcotics Anonymous. So the first word that I chose was dignity, which can sometimes be associated with morality, but that's not so much the dignity that I want to focus on. It's more finding self-worth. When I first came to NA, I focused a lot on sex, attention seeking, buying the nicest things, being the center of attention, and a lot of my using was focused on that as well. I found the hotter I was, the more free drugs I got, and a whole lot of my attention seeking kind of gave me this rush. It gave me this feeling of being powerful, and that stemmed from a lot of insecurity, and it's something that I still struggle with today, and I think I always will on some level. But through coming to Narcotics Anonymous, I have found a way to feel good about myself and to feel like I deserve respect, and it's taken me a lot of years to figure out how that works.